Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for turning into our Diversity in Water Speaker Series event this evening. Before we get started, I ask that everyone make sure that they are muted. The goal of our Diversity in Water Speaker Series is to highlight the stories of diverse leaders in the water industry, how their identity has impacted their journey, and how they see diversity playing a role in the future of water. Our speaker for this event is Miyah Bayless. Miyah is the Research and Control Specialist for the Division of Water Reclamation at the City of Dayton. Miyah has over 13 years of experience in the wastewater industry. She earned a Bachelor of Science Degree in Chemistry from Bowling Green State University. As a Class 3 certified wastewater treatment operator, she has worked in several roles, including Wastewater Bacteriologist Chemist and Operations Supervisor. In her current role, she manages the city's Biosolids land application and disposal and odor control contracts, along with the safety program for water reclamation. In 2022, Miyah became the co-chair for the OWEA's DE&I committee to help foster OWEA's commitment to crafting a more inclusive environment for all of its members. Miyah is the mom to Chase and Carter, a volleyball player and coach, a basketball scorekeeper, and avid learner. We are very glad to have the opportunity to hear from Miyah today. During Miyah's presentation, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat that we will go over at the end of the presentation. Before I turn it over to Miyah, I just want to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the Diversity in Water Speaker Series.
That's what I found.
If I can get that. Here we go. So the Diversity in Water Speaker Series is a speaker series that is planned by a small committee. It's made up of water professionals who organize and put on up to 6 speaker series events a year, highlighting leaders across the water industry. The team's efforts are on behalf of the AWWA Ohio Section's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, who promote diversity in the water industry, and the OAWWA Young Professionals, or YP Committee. The YP Committee is committed to the advancement of students and young professionals in the water industry and serves as a welcoming mat for students and YPs to the water industry. AWWA defines a YP as someone who is 35 years old or younger, or has been in the industry less than 10 years. But all water professionals are welcome to join any of our events. Typically, we do a few happy hours in each district, plant tours, and outreach to universities, and volunteer at state science days. The YPs also participate in other series, specifically the Careers in Water series. And we do have an upcoming event on April 2nd that I just want to mention. I will place the registration link in the chat for that if anybody is interested. I would now like to welcome Miyah to go ahead and start your presentation. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Miyah.
Can we see that okay?
Yes, you're good to go.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Miyah Bayless. I'm the Research and Control Specialist at the City of Dayton Water Reclamation Facility. That's a fancy title for a jack of all trades, master of none. I also co-chair the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for OWEA. When I was first approached about this presentation, my first thought was no. Presentations are not my jam, but you know what? What better way to share my story around DE&I? DE&I will be present throughout this presentation. And questions I ask myself a lot, what can I do as an individual about DE&I? Am I doing enough? How can I make sure I'm being inclusive? Are we treating employees equitably? And sometimes if I answer those questions, from my perspective, the answer is no. So we definitely have some work to do. It is Women's History Month, so I want to thank all the women who have sacrificed so that we can vote, we can work, have credit cards in our names, and have reproductive rights. Well, maybe not that, but women's rights are human rights. So a little bit about me. A star was born on February 23rd. I'm a Pisces, so that means I'm a bit emotional, nonchalant, a thinker, and a big dreamer. Purple is my favorite color. The birthstone for February is also amethyst, which is purple. So I'm a little biased towards people who like purple. This is my major why. My children, Chase and Carter. This is the reason I wake up, determined to get it right. So hopefully they don't have to fight so hard against discrimination, harassment, and racism. Another why is my family. My parents were married 37 years before my mother passed. That was 29 years of my life. I'm the baby of the family. My sisters, my Che and Micah, are 8 and 6 years older than me. So basically, I consider myself an only child, and I behave as such. Friends, and they're not my last why. They are my last why, but definitely they're an important why. My friends are there to laugh, cry, support, and many of them are on the Zoom supporting me today, and I appreciate them dearly. Water is not the only life I lead. I'm a volleyball coach. I play volleyball as well. I'm very involved in my son's sports. Pictured in the middle is my son's 8th grade basketball team. He's a sophomore now, but I've been doing the basketball scorebook for them since they were in 5th grade. So I am very passionate about that role that I play with the team. I volunteer at the school when and where I'm needed. And because we do so many sports, I also work part-time at Dick's Sporting Goods, and it's for a discount. And I will tell everybody that, hey, I'm only here for a discount. So not sure where I find all the time, but I make it happen. I like to travel, and the only way I can continue to travel is to show up to work. So because traveling costs money, I would rather give myself and my children experiences than things. City of Dayton, my city. The city of Dayton is the Montgomery County seat. We have a population of about 138,000, and the county's population is about 536,000 people. As you pictured in this picture is this view of downtown and the Great Miami River. The population breakdown of Dayton is 51% white, 38% Black, 1.3% Asian, and our male to female population is just about equal. Those numbers are just a little important because they'll come back up towards the end of the presentation. The city of Dayton supplies clean drinking water to over 400,000 Montgomery County residents. The Water Reclamation discharges into the Great Miami River, pictured here. So the residents of Montgomery County uses the river to fish, to do water sports. Downtown, we have what's called Riverscape. A lot of people are just hanging out around the river. So it's our job to make sure we're discharging high quality effluent to the river. And of course, I work at the City of Dayton Water Reclamation facility. I've worked here for just about 14 years. April 10th will be my anniversary. Our plant has a design for 72 MGD. Peak flow is about 210 MGD. So if we got that much coming in, that's a day. I mean, I would like to skip work if possible. Hopefully it's on a weekend so I don't have to be there. We are an advanced wastewater treatment plant. So for those of you who are not water professional, it just means we remove stuff better. We're removing nutrients, solids, metals, the good stuff. You name a process, we probably have it. We've been around since 1929. So we've had several years of upgrades that have happened to the facility. We have a 2-stage biological treatment with trickling filters and aeration basins. So just our microorganisms eating the solids that are in the water. We have anaerobic digestion, which leads to biosolids, and we land apply class B biosolids. We have primary, secondaries, and final clarifiers, all just settling solids, and we disinfect and remove phosphorus in the summer months. So a little bit about my education. I attended the Dunbar High School in Dayton, Ohio. Dunbar has a rich African-American history. It was the first all-Black high school in Dayton, the first Black high school to be admitted to the City League for athletics. And for those who attended Dunbar, we are part of a rich history and legacy. Pictured here is my father, Charles Bayless Jr., my grandmother, Stella Mae Rich, and of course me. These are all our senior pictures. I'm the last Bayless to attend Dunbar High School. My grandparents, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, and cousins, all with the Bayless last name, attended Dunbar. And except for 2 of my uncles, Martin and Jerry, they went to Belmont High School because of busing. I think it was to break up the athletic dynasties within Dayton Public Schools. At Dunbar, we had Mr. Weimer. He was the chemistry teacher, and he also taught, I can't remember the other class he taught, advanced chemistry and something else. Was it organic chemistry? It might have been like a little bit of organic chemistry also. But Pete, as we called him, behind his back, and he would be mad at us if we did, was an amazing teacher. He was actually in college to go to med school and quit because he was like, I don't want to accrue all this debt. So he became a teacher. They paid off his student loans. And one of the things about him, he was a runner-up for the Challenger space shuttle flight. So had he actually got picked for that, we would have never had him as a teacher. I might not be sitting here today. So I am glad he was a runner-up. And we carry a lot of his sayings today. One time in class, he was like, hey, you guys, you know what? You should just never rent from Rent-A-Center. And we're like, what are you talking about? And he told us how much they were going to overcharge us if we were to rent from them. So, and that they preyed on the undereducated and underemployed. So I've never rented anything from Rent-A-Center because of him. And he also taught me how I do dimensional analysis to this day. So if a problem has units in it, I'm going to break out his method and I am going to solve that problem just like that. I attended Bowling Green State University and graduated with a Bachelor of Science Degree in chemistry. I chose to be a chemistry major because of Mr. Weimer. I was good at science in high school, but when I got to college, I had a rude awakening. I had to learn to study and research in college because high school was just super easy. It just came easy to me. So I had to get serious about learning. And I've always been one of a few, or one of the only in the room. And being a science major was no different. Joe, which is pictured on the left, uh, and I were the only two African American chemistry majors in our year. My roommate Jamie, she's also in that picture on the left, was a biology major. Shay was also a biology major, but she ended up quitting biology and went to be a hospitality major. Joe and I were attached at the hip because we needed each other. Affirmative action was the diversity buzzword then. And we felt like others looked at us sometimes like we were an affirmative action number and not a worthy candidate. Being one of two is tough. And if you've never been in that situation, it may be hard for you to empathize. Organic chemistry is probably the worst class created for college. That's actually a picture of my organic chemistry book from college. And I took it my sophomore year and I had to drop it because it was hard. And I think that was before I really got that whole studying thing down. I retook it my junior year. I put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that class. I would open that book, my eye would twitch. I would close it, it would stop. Open, start. And that was a terrible time, but I got through it. I ended up getting a B in that class and I persevered. These are two of my chemistry teachers from college. They helped weave my way through college. Dr. Leontes was my advisor, and he taught physical chemistry and numerical methods. And if you don't use it, you'll lose it. I have no idea what either one of those classes would teach me right now. Dr. Snavely taught honors chemistry. And she was a very good teacher, and she held our hands. She held me and Joe's hand for a bit so we could get up to speed. And college was different for me because I was a first generation college student. My mom had some college, my older sister had some college, and my middle sister actually graduated from Bowling Green that year. That summer, or that spring before I came into the fall. I did not have the luxury to do internships in the summer because I needed to make money. So I worked at General Motors. We had a factory in Dayton at the time. So I worked at General Motors in the summer. I made about $16 an hour. So in the year 2000, $16 an hour was a whole lot of money. My mother forced me to save half my checks so I could have money throughout the school year. And working at General Motors made me want to go to college. It made me want to work harder in college because that physical labor was tough, and it kept my eye on the prize. A little bit about my employment history. So I didn't do any internships, so I graduated without any job prospects. I worked at Kohl's for a time after graduating. I was a substitute teacher for about a year. I got my first job in the field at a place called Adeco. That is a staffing firm. I wasn't aware that this is how some of the larger corporations did their hiring. So I worked at various places through this staffing firm. I worked at P&G, Miller Brewing, Addis US, which was a company that made the fruit matrices for like Dannon yogurt. And I would leave those places for either more money, closer to home. I was probably driving an hour to work all the time. Or just it wasn't a good fit. I started at One Care in 2006, and it was still a 45-minute drive to Westchester as a temp, and I finally got hired on. At One Care, I was a research and development analyst for private label products. So we major generic store brands for like Windex, drain cleaner, things like that. I was the only African American in the office. There were some African Americans that worked in the factory, but the factory was about 30 miles away. And in 2010, I finally got to take my talents home when the city of Dayton offered me a position in the wastewater laboratory as a bacteriologist chemist. Why water? Water kind of sticks to you, I guess. I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist with my chemistry degree. It was not in God's plan for me. Nobody, maybe a few people, but nobody really chooses water. I fell into this job and I have made it a career. My mother passed away in 2009, and my dad, he worked at the city also. So his friends came from the city to her funeral. And as I was sending a thank you card, I was looking up the city's address, and I saw that they had career opportunities. And I was like, well, let me click on this. And they had a job that I had qualifications for, a wastewater bacteriologist chemist. So I clicked on the link. The job was expiring that next day. And so I got all my information in, turned it in, and, all I can say is thanks, Mom, right? So working in the water industry, it gives me a sense of pride. I'm doing something for the environment. In these pictures, you see me and my kids in some type of water environment. We were at Eastwood Lake and probably Inglewood Metro Park. And then we're also treating water so generations to come have safe drinking water and waterways to play in. So I mentioned my dad worked at the city. He retired with 29 years of service. He worked in the water department, also in the sewer maintenance division. As far as I know, the city was sewer maintenance, because that's all he would talk about was sewer maintenance, the city. So I'm kind of water legacy. He was a trailblazer working for the city. He was when he retired, he was probably like a foreman, but I'm probably his wildest dream. Like, he made it possible for me to be where I am today within the city. So the laboratory, I spent 6 years as a wastewater bacteriologist chemist. The laboratory was diverse. It was, of course, me. We had 2 white males. One of those males was an LGBTQ. We had an Asian man, and then we had a white woman. So, we all knew something about being the minority. Like the one white male, he was just a minority in the laboratory within us, within all the other minorities. But we all had our differences of opinions, backgrounds, lifestyles. But when the work needed to be done, we came together as a team. This is one of my favorite quotes. Many of you probably know Jason Tenkew. He used to be the manager here at City of Dayton, but he said, we need to get her out of the lab. Jason was my boss's boss at the time when he said that. He has always championed for me. He got me involved in committees at the division and departmental level, helped me build my network within the city. He made suggestions about my career that I took as a joke initially, but he helped prepare me so I could be who I am today. So that joke was kind of taking the test to be an operations supervisor. In the lab, it was a 7 to 3:30 job. It was comfortable. I was going to have to go outside. It was going to be hot, rainy, snow, cold. That was just something I was like, no, that's not for me. So, but I reluctantly took that test, and it was a tested position at the time. I was third on the open competitive list. So, like, if somebody that already had somebody, for me, it would have been a lateral move, but for somebody, it would have been a promotion they would have had a first shot at it. So, I think there was only people on that open competitive list, and the two people ahead of me either turned it down. And so Dave Wilson at the time was the acting division manager. And he said, I think this is going to get to you. So you're going to have to make a decision. So it was a second shift position, and I'm a mom. So how am I going to make sure that my kids are okay? One thing I think about, are males faced with the same question when considering employment? I'm sure they consider their familial needs, but I mean, I feel like as a mom, you have that sole responsibility, not sole responsibility, but a major responsibility in rearing your kids. But they had a dad, and their dad stepped up, and he made sure that they were okay. So I appreciate him for that, for sure. So I was the first woman operations supervisor at the wastewater plant. I took a leap of faith in that position. It was a tough position to be in also. So the male operators, they didn't want me to be their supervisor. Who's this girl coming from the lab? She doesn't know nothing about operations. I get it. I didn't. I mean, I was a class 2 operator at the time, but I just had the theory behind it. I can do math. That's easy. But I was willing to learn. I passed my class 3 certification within 6 months of getting that position. And honestly, now the theory made sense since I was putting it into practical application. I earned the operators' respect, and they were willing to impart knowledge into me because I treated them how they wanted to be treated, with respect. I learned how each of my operators received information, and I would communicate with them that way. I had this one operator one time. I asked him, hey, can you do this for me? And he said, nope. I was just taken aback, like, oh, he told me no. Because nobody had told me no before. So I asked another operator, hey, can you do that for me? No problem. So the next time I had a task for that operator, I said, hey, I need you to do this. And he said, okay. So I had to learn how to communicate the way he wanted to be communicated with. And we were fine from there. This is just for fun. If there's an award for the most selfies taken by an operations supervisor, it's probably going to me. I had so many pictures, but I only chose a few to put on there. In my current role as the research and control specialist, I'm the first woman at Water Reclamation to hold this position. So I feel like I continue to make strides in history at our facility. As you can see, I wear many different hats in this role. I manage the Biosolids and the odor control contract. Dayton processes the biosolids, and Synagro does the land app side of things. So I make sure Dayton and Synagro has what it needs to have a successful land app program. We are a wastewater plant, so you may think it stinks, and some days it does. But we are also in what I like to call the poo triangle, where we have the Montgomery County Western Regional, we have the Miamisburg wastewater plant, we have the West Carrollton wastewater plant, we have the Montgomery County transfer station. We have our wastewater facility, and then we have Stony Hollow landfill. So we have a lot of potentially stinky plants in a small area. So we try our best to minimize odors and be good neighbors. We use biofilters to capture the foul air. We use peroxide in the collection system to raise the pH to keep the hydrogen sulfide in solution. And as a safety compliance officer, I conduct safety trainings, inspections, meetings, making sure we're doing things safe at the plant. I like to joke and say I'm a software developer, but I'm helping implement the Hawk Williams Rio software into our organizations. And then I also have a unique skill set for our facility, having worked at the laboratory and operations. We're very siloed here. So you got your laboratory, your operators, your maintenance people, because we're a big facility. So everybody doesn't get a chance to do everything. So being that I've been in operations and maintenance and the laboratory, I can make informed decisions or different decisions than others might make. There was an instance that we were having issues with our total suspended solids results. They were all over the place. And the outcome was, hey, let's go retrain the operators on how to sample because they obviously are sampling wrong. And this is when I was operations supervisor. So I took the time out and just walked in the lab one day and just watched the analysts do the test, the total suspended solids test. And I found out she was using the wrong pipette. That's why we were getting different results, because she was using a small mouth pipette instead of a bigger mouth pipette. So all the solids weren't able to be sucked into the pipette. And I mean, I feel like it was a small thing, but it was not vetted out by everybody. Highlights in my career, I graduated from the University of Dayton Emerging Leader Cohort. This was a leadership program that for succession planning through the organization they are sending employees to. It helped provide me with tools on how to manage up, how to lead with feedback, and most importantly, how to manage myself. I won the Joseph T. Klein Award and a commendable evaluation that same year. The Joseph T. Klein Award is for employees who display excellence and dedication in their career as a city employee, as well as civic and community involvement. And anyone can nominate you, so I was very pleased to be recognized for my service to the city. And receiving a commendable evaluation is nearly impossible, so that's something to be proud about. And then also I've been a part of 2 teams that have won a Water Worthy Award. That's an internal awards program that we have. So what helped me prosper and grow? Setting goals. When I got to the facility, not knowing a lot about wastewater or anything, and maybe not on day one, maybe 6 months, maybe a year later, I was like, you know what, one day I want to run this place. And I didn't have the tools at that time to know how to do that, but definitely doing some of these things and this has led me to that. So people taking a chance on me, Jason saying, hey, we got to get her out of the lab, listening to others. Hey, you should consider taking this wastewater operations supervisor job. It'll help propel your career. Learning on the fly. Sometimes you have to make decisions and you have to pull in information and make a decision right there. And that has definitely helped me. That's a really good skill to have. Being open to suggestions. Again, making sure that you are willing to take a leap of faith. Taking constructive criticism. Sometimes you're not going to get it right all the time. You're not going to get it right probably 50% of the time. Maybe a little higher than that. But you got to be able to take constructive criticism so that you can learn and do better the next time. Willing to research answers. Anyone who knows me knows that I am going to Google something. If you tell me something and I think you're not 100% right, guess what? I'm going to Google it. Guess what? I'm going to go talk to another person and say, hey, is this the way that process works? And if they say no, okay, I didn't think so. And I don't always have to be right, and I will admit when I'm wrong, but I want to know the right answer. And then being mindful of others. Somebody could have had a bad day today, and you just saying hi to them could lift their spirits. So just be mindful of others. Advice, set goals. Do I need more schooling based on the job description? Look up the job description of the job that you want. How do I need to get there? Do I need an operator certification? Do I need a wastewater analyst certification? How much experience do I need? Get a mentor. A mentor can help you meet your goals. This can help you navigate situations you are unfamiliar with. Keisha Kinney she was my unofficial mentor for a very long time, I guess. And through the UD leadership program, she became my official mentor. And we have continued that relationship to today, but she helps me understand the management role, decisions that they make, and even if we're not satisfied with them all the time, like, this is why this had to be done. So it's definitely been a great relationship. Be a mentor, help lift up the next generation. We can't be gatekeepers of the information, because one day we're not going to be here. Speak up. People won't know what you know unless you speak up. Don't be afraid to fail. I failed the Class 3 operator certification twice. I took the ABC test and I got a terrible score. It was probably 50 or below. It was not me. But they had 10 math questions on that. So that was my issue. I took the state test and got a 68. I was able to review my test because I got a 68, and I got 24 out of 25 math questions correct. So I studied what I missed, and then I passed the next go around. So don't be afraid to fail, and be friendly. This is something Keisha taught me. You don't have to be friends with everyone or anyone at the job, but you can be friendly. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is what diversity looks like to me. If you break diversity down, age, race, gender, education, income, white collar versus blue collar, work experience, what division you work in, your geographical location. And then if you look at my division, we have 71 employees. 85% of our employees are male, with 70% of those individuals being white men, 29 being Black men, and 1 being an Asian male. 15% of those 71 employees are women. 73% of that 15% is white women, and 27% is Black women. If I break down the numbers by generations for our facility, you have 41% of our employees as baby boomers, 27% Gen X, 30% millennials, and 2% Gen Z. So with the millennials and Gen Z, a third of our workforce are digital natives, meaning that they were either born or have had computers and technology most of their lives. And the water industry is becoming more of a technical field with PLCs and inline meters and things like that. So definitely those millennials and Gen Zs are up to the challenge for those things. And then if you look at our careers differently, we have 16% of the people working in admin, 7% in laboratory, 45% of our staff is operations, 27% is maintenance, and then our industrial monitoring group is 5%. If you want to talk about geographic location, 25% of our employees live within the city limits. So to me, that means, it seems like people may or may not care about the city that they actually work in. Not saying that because they don't live there, but they're not spending their money here. They're not spending time in the city because they go home right after they go to work. So that's a big thing for me. So do minorities know about city jobs? And typically people hear about these jobs from family members and friends. So if you don't have one of those people working in the city, like, you may not know about these jobs. So we do things at the city of Dayton, like we have the Water Career Conference where we have reached out to local high schools to teach them about our water careers. But the issue with that is we don't have any way to give them a job that day. We have the Children's Water Festival, which fourth grade students from Montgomery County, they come to UD and they learn about water. We attend job fairs. We do a career day at the Dayton Metro Library for middle schoolers. So we are out in the public trying to educate people about water and about water jobs. But once again, knowing a family member or a friend helps you navigate your way through the city's employment process. And then the city used to be the premier employer, but now it's hard to get people to get excited about wanting to work. So that's also a tough uphill battle for us. Equity, this is a common equity picture that you'll see. Equity is hard because the people in power have to be willing to give a little. You can see on the left-hand side that everybody's equal, but the little guy, he still can't see. So on the right-hand side, we give the guy that's disadvantaged a fair shot, and that's it. And then inclusion, for me, this is one of my favorite quotes. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Sometimes you have to create your opportunities for yourself. If there's a daily meeting, ask your boss if you can be included so you can know what's going on at your facility. Ask to job shadow. Let your boss or your boss's boss know your interests. What role do you want to play at your facility, and how do I get there? Because they may not be looking at you. They're not always in their office thinking like, hey, I wonder if Miyah would like to do this. So you have to put yourself out there. Diversity invites everyone to the party. Equity allows everyone an opportunity to dance, and inclusion lets everyone pick a song. So belonging, dignity, and justice is a relatively new concept in the DE&I universe. Belonging is being somewhere you want to be and are wanted. I always say we are all here to treat water or reclaim water. And no matter if you're cleaning the bathrooms, if you're pushing paper, if you're pushing the buttons actually out there operating, if you're fixing a pump, we all have one goal, and that's to treat wastewater. And nobody wants to come to work and feel like they're not wanted here. So everybody should belong. Dignity supports the inherent value of every human person, regardless of positional power or privilege. Respect people as people. Value your people. Listen to your people. Just because I'm a janitor doesn't mean that I don't have value. And justice is to make right and whole, to repair harm, repair faith in your leadership in your organization, be just, impartial, and fair. Belonging, dignity, and justice builds trust, grows collective consciousness, and creates tension to move teams to action. Rather than a checklist or a series of transactional and performative changes, it creates a climate and culture that allows everyone to reach their full potential and thrive. And I am definitely a person who is passionate about people. People is one of my greatest strengths. So I am always learning people, how they tick, how they move. And I try to communicate with people where they're at. I don't try to go, too far over their heads. I try to meet them where they're at. And that's very important to me because everybody doesn't have that skill. And people come to talk to me because I'm inviting. I have invited them in. I'm being inclusive. And how can you do the same? Well, we made it to the end. I would like to thank Ohio AWWA for having me participate in the Diversity in Water series. This has been a journey for me because I'm passionate about being different. Don't put me in a box because I don't fit. Thanks for the City of Dayton Water Department and Water Reclamation for letting me be me. I guess I'll ask if there's any questions. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Awesome job, Miyah.
Thank you.
Great presentation, absolutely. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute and ask Miyah. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. I will say, Miyah, while everyone's thinking of their question, we got a few applauses through your presentation. So that was awesome. Everybody really highlighting your achievements throughout your presentation.
Well, thank you. I did class my video because I didn't want to watch myself talking, because I probably would have paid more attention to that than the presentation. So I appreciate everybody for giving me some accolades.
Hi, Miyah. I'm going to ask a question, of course.
Hi, Micah.
All right. No, you really triggered something for me. You mentioned something about the partnership and really the pipelining piece with local community schools. I was just wondering if you can answer how can schools, if someone is on here listening or if they will be, watch this at a later time, how can schools create the environment to really have students to come into the water department as far as entry level employees at the age of 18? What is there specific coursework, or is there a specific CTE program that local schools may need to really pipeline students right into the workforce there? I'm just asking. I work in workforce development a little bit, somewhere in there, so just interested to know.
I guess so like an entry-level operator job, I think the requirements for it is like a year of some type of mechanical experience. So if your CTCs have like a construction class, a construction train, or a maintenance type car, even like a car maintenance or something like that, I think anything like that falls up under that. So if kids are able to do that, they're junior and senior year, that's a way to potentially get into operations supervisor or operations job, having that year of experience, because that, for the city of Dayton has like a civil service process, so you have to meet these certain qualifications for your application to make it to the next step, because it's going to be a tested position. The city of Dayton has been testing for many of these union jobs for a very long time, because they wanted to make sure, for instance, they wanted to say, hey, Maya, you just can't give a job to your son because you work there and you're a manager there. He's going to have to go take a test. He's going to have to get in there on his own merit. So I think that is definitely a way. And I don't know if there's a way for us to like prepare students as far as like taking a civil service test. That might be another avenue. So those are maybe a couple ways.
Thank you.
Maya, we had a question in the chat. I think that there's a lot of our audience members really identify with some of your experiences. And so one of the questions is, have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome being a minority, and any advice to overcome it?
Oh, I deal with imposter syndrome probably on a daily. And with my work coach, that is one of the things we work on. Me telling myself that I am enough, that I know things. I didn't just get here because of my good looks or anything like that. I actually am here because of the work I've done. But sometimes you're in the room, you want to be in the room, but then you get in the room and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know as much as these people. But you actually know your stuff, but you're intimidated. So working with that with my mentor, with my work coach, that is how I try to stay level with that and that.
Maya, another question. So you gave a lot of advice, but you talked about some of your challenges professionally. What would you consider to be your biggest challenge in the water industry?
So I want to answer this question truthfully and not get fired at the same time. I'm going to say the Good Old Boys Club has been my biggest challenge, because the water industry does not look like me. And so it's hard for me sometimes to navigate the industry because it doesn't look like me. I have to import myself into spaces that have historically not had people that looked like me in it. So that's definitely probably my biggest challenge, has been my biggest challenge. But I'm very personable, and people end up liking me. I mean, there's people that don't like me and I don't care, but I definitely make sure that I am being my genuine self, and that's me just being happy go lucky bubbly most times.
And just to step back a minute, during the presentation you talked about a position. I think it may have been when you were went into operations, and you said that you were the first Black woman in the position.
Oh, no, I was the first woman in the position.
Okay.
And not only Black woman, but first woman in that position. So that was, it was different because, you know, like the guys, they would do their briefing or, you know, the switch over from shift in the locker room. I can't go in the locker room. So I would have to wait outside of the locker room like I was loitering or, you know, wait in the office. But usually, you know, I tried to make it easier for the guys because they were about to clock out or whatever. So I didn't want them to be like, where's Miyah at? So I would just usually stand outside the locker room and just wait to have that conversation about what happened on the shift prior to.
And so that's when you were the operations supervisor at City of Dayton, right?
Correct.
And so talking about that, knowing that you had those challenges, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would probably give my younger self the advice that everybody's not gonna like you. And my dad has probably told me this before, but actually listen to it. Everybody's not gonna like you, so that's something you just have to deal with, right? Earlier in my career, you know, like when I was in the laboratory, I was like, I want to run this place one day. So I went and said, hey, I'm gonna make a relationship with everybody in the facility. So, and that's what I did. But still, when I went out to operations, I had trouble with some people just because I came from the laboratory. I was a woman supervisor. They haven't seen any of this before. So I had to toughen up. And it was definitely a challenge for me because sometimes I'm just aloof, like la 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 la. And you know, in the laboratory, I didn't have anybody to manage. I just had to manage myself and my tests. And now I'm being thrust into a supervisor position, so I kind of had to man up.
So there's one more question in the chat, and if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to get them in the chat and we'll see if we can answer a couple more. But this question is, in relation to work culture, how would you compare being in research versus your career in the city?
I feel like being in research, I was always I felt like it was like, you know, you're taking this whole long time to develop a product. And in the city, everything is happening like now, today, even though the city is kind of, you know, cities are kind of slow with red tape and things like that. But in research, when you are, you get the time to make the mistakes. And sometimes in the city, you know, we're going to make mistakes, but you might get in trouble for making that mistake. Where in research, you're like, oh, we need to start, you know, back at this point because this part of the test failed or whatnot. So I think the work culture is not as maybe cutthroat in research that it might be in the city because, you know, everybody's trying to everybody's trying to position themselves for what's next.
Thank you so much, Miyah. I just, so everyone knows, there is some information in the chat about opportunities for young professionals or local school students that are looking to get into the water industry. So feel free to check that out. Again, I want to thank Miyah for her great presentation. Like I said, it obviously resonated with a lot of our audience members, a lot of kudos in the chat. So thank you, Miyah. I do also want to mention that if you enjoyed today's presentation, we will have one coming up again in May, on May 9th. Tia Darden, who is an environmental manager at Ohio EPA, will be speaking. So look forward to that communication to come out, letting you know of her event. But Hal, thank you, Miyah, so much for your presentation today.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for everybody that has participated, asking questions, and I got through it.
You did great.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.